Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation on whose land this podcast was produced, and the traditional owners of the Darug Nation on whose land the interviews were recorded. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is part of an oral history project called Still Standing, a life history of Tom and Dennis Moffatt. My name is Emma and I've been working with Tom and Dennis to tell their story over the last 2 years. Together we've recorded hours of conversation. We've walked around Newtown, going back to the places they used to knock about, and soon we'll be releasing a book about their life. It tells of their separation when they were taken by the welfare as kids. Tom and Dennis lived parallel lives involved in gangs and crime until they were reunited as adults and found a new purpose in their commitment to family. We've called the book Still Standing to reflect their resilience despite a tough life. As part of the project, we trained students from Sir Joseph Banks High School Koori Club to interview Tom and Dennis. When we showed up at the school in November 2019, Pamela, who ran the Koori Club and was raised in Marrickville, immediately recognised Dennis from his younger days living in the inner west. They had both since moved to southwest Sydney. Pamela's daughters and nephew were Koori Club regulars at their Reesby school, but they had lived in Marrickville and still had family there. Involving them in the recording of Tom and Dennis's life history acknowledges that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander residents maintain family and social ties that stretch across neighbouring local government areas and Greater Sydney, not to mention extending to regional towns in New South Wales and beyond.
Hello, my name is Finny. I am a student here at Sir Joseph Banks High School in Year 10. I am part of the school's Koori Club, which meets every week on Mondays. For the first half of this year, we researched our Aboriginal background, looking into where our tribes are from, what lands we live on now, and where our families are from. Today, we learnt how to interview so we could help record the oral history of Tom and Dennis Moffatt. They are two brothers who were separated as kids but found each other as adults. Here is their story. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Dennis Moffatt. I live at Chester Hill. I'm from the Toowoomba, where my grandmother from the Torres Strait Islands, Toowoomba. We moved from there down through my father, my grandfather. He was Aboriginal, part Aboriginal, and we moved down from there down to where we all originally come from Crookwell, up at Goulburn, and that's me.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Redfern we moved from Crookwell, where I was born at Crookwell originally. And I only really lived most of my life down around the Redfern Newtown area. We moved down before the block was known as the block.
Describe the place you spent your childhood.
Describe. Oh, we roamed around it. We roamed around a lot. We never was sort of in the one place. We went Wellington, Dubbo, went to Burke, and from what I remember from my childhood, I had a very happy childhood. We were very happy. We were a big family. I come from 13 children.
Wow.
We were a very good, very big family. And in 1954, my mother, she passed away. And then not long after she passed away, at that time we were living at Herne Bay, which is called Riverwood now. And we were living there, and there is reports apparently made against us, and the welfare just come and took us all.
At what age did you guys get separated from you and your siblings?
I was probably 7.
7?
I was 7 at the time. And then we were put into an orphanage. I went to an orphanage at Kingcumber with the Sisters of St. Joseph.
Yeah.
And very, how would you say, very nasty, very cruel.
Yeah.
Very cruel people. You know, going from a loving family
Right.
and then just being dumped, just be taken away,
Yeah.
just like that, just come and take you away, just like that. And then put you in this place where you're not familiar, you're a stranger, you're like an outcast, and then to be treated
Right.
the way that we were treated, like that. And I think a lot of the treatment that I did get in that orphanage was because of me Aboriginal part of my side of my family.
Right.
And I think that was why I got a lot of the treatment that I
What?
did get.
How did you push yourself to survive through that experience?
We had the kids all looked after each other. Like we had a group, there was other Aboriginal kids, and we sort of all looked after each other. We would, anything happened to one of our mob,
Yeah.
well then after whatever happened, we would get him
Yeah.
and take him into our little circle,
Yeah.
and we talked to him, and
So you guys had a strong connection with each other?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's good.
yes.
Is there a song that takes you back into your childhood?
So a song,
Yeah.
Take Me Back Country Road,
Oh, I love that. That's such a good song.
that takes me back.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you live now?
I live at Chester Hill. Yeah.
Do you feel like home? Are you like?
No.
Doesn't.
The only time I feel like home is when I'm back in the bush.
Yeah.
Because I myself now, I might go for a day or two, and I'll just go down to the bush, and I'll just go into the bush, and I might spend a day
Yeah.
or a little bit longer just in the bush by myself.
Through this whole journey, this experience for you, what would have been the hardest thing to overcome?
The hardest thing to overcome would have been, I suppose, the death of my mother would have been, and being taken away from my family and placed in that orphanage,
Yeah.
which is, as I said before, was very cruel to you, very, very nasty, very cruel.
Did you know before you went, did you know anyone, like any of the other boys or girls?
No,
No?
no.
So when you were put there, you were like sort of forced to just adapt quickly and just to make friends and family?
Yeah, because when there was two of my sisters Kay and Gail, we went, because we were the youngest,
Yeah.
and they took us to Waitara, and they took from Waitara to Croydon, and then they took me from Croydon to Kingcumber.
Without your sisters?
Yeah, without my sisters,
Yeah.
they were there, and that was what, I haven't seen them for 60 years,
You still haven't seen them?
still haven't seen them. So I look and look. I looked for many years to try and track them down, but got nowhere. Got nowhere.
How did you turn that experience into a personal strength?
It made me a stronger person.
Yeah.
That experience, being in there at that young age, being like amongst strangers and having to learn how to stand up, speak out what you thought, and which made me a stronger person by doing, and being the person that I thought my mother would want me to be, and like that.
Yeah.
What is a quality you love about yourself?
I can't hear.
What is a quality you love about yourself?
Love about myself, I'm always mucking around joking, playing jokes on everyone.
Yeah. So you love
I'm
to
a-
have a good time, yeah?
Yeah, and I'm a good storyteller.
Right.
Do you have any kids?
Like when you sit here and have a look at this shirt, there's a lot of stories on this shirt.
Yeah.
You know, and by looking at, you follow your culture, like you'd be able to tell me the story, what that story is there.
Mm.
Can you tell me what that story is?
Maybe they're sitting around together.
That's right.
There are people sitting
Yeah,
together.
you're right. There's a lot of stories on that shirt. Have I got,
Do you have any kids?
now, I'm what, 76, or I could be 77, because I've lost me. A couple of years ago I used to put my age backwards
Right.
instead of going forwards. And at my age, like I got 5 new children.
Wow.
And I never thought at my age I'd be 5 new children again.
Wow.
Do you tell them like stories?
All the time. I tell them about the stories of the dream time. I dance for them.
Oh.
Do the kangaroo dance, the emu dance. I dance for them. The old kangaroo going and whatever. Yeah, always storytelling to them.
Yeah.
And
I think that's good as well to always keep them aware of what happened
That's
back
right.
then, and that you have such a personal experience that you were. Yeah, I think it's good that not just you but other people as well
That's
who
right.
didn't experience it
That's
should
right.
still tell stories about it,
Mm.
so we can keep. Because I think when the Stolen Generation was about, I think it did affect a lot of people,
It did.
like generations and generations of
It did.
people. So I think it's something that's really important that should be kept.
It did
Till today.
affected a really lot of people.
Yeah,
My grandmother, she was one of the
right.
Stolen Generation, and it did really affected her all through her life. It was
Yeah,
like must have been a terrible thing, and then to come back, and then later on in years, as I said, well, I sort of got what she must have felt when the welfare just come and took me.
mhm.
You know, just come and bang.
Yeah,
Took us, took me, my sisters. You know, there's this Stolen Generation there, and then the Stolen Generation happened all over again
right.
years and years later.
Yeah,
Which people they recognise the Stolen Generation back then,
but not what's
but they
happening
don't
right now.
recognise
yeah,
the Stolen
right.
Generation would happen years later too, which is exactly the same
Yeah.
as happened back there.
If you had one piece of advice for your younger self back then, what would it be?
One piece of advice.
Yeah, so, yeah, just something that you'd tell them to keep pushing through everything
Well-
that happened.
One piece of advice you could give them would be to always stand up for yourself, respect other people, always respect other people, respect your own culture, respect other people, don't be embarrassed of your culture, don't be afraid to speak out about your culture or whatever for your race of people, stand up and
Yeah.
be proud that
Yeah,
who you are.
yeah, I totally agree. What are you most grateful for in your life?
In your life, yeah.
Now I got it. You're a bit far away over
Sorry.
there, Lindsay.
It's
I
okay.
can hear it, but what I'm in my life I'm most grateful for. I'm most grateful for my family, the things that they instilled into me, which I have passed on to my children, and the people that I have met along the way in my journey, and speaking about my journey to my children, my journey to my friends, dream time, yeah.
Nice. How did it feel to find your brother?
My brothers.
Yeah.
I found Tom. One day, Jimmy found Tom, and he said, "There's someone coming up to see you."
Yeah.
On the next day, and I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Who is?" He said, wait till you see." And then he just knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and I looked at him, and I knew. And I just said to him, I said, "What took you so long?"
Yeah.
And I didn't even know his name then. And I said, what took you so long? But I knew,
You just knew
as soon
that.
as I looked and I knew there was a connection straight away. We connected straight away.
Yeah.
And me and Tom still now have been looking, there's still a few more to be found now.
Yeah.
I get a bit, with Gay and Kay, I keep thinking of them all the time. It hurts me when I think of them.
Yeah.
I look for them. And I worry about I'm going to die and never see 'em.
Yeah.
I'm going to die and never see them. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's
It's
alright.
fine.
Just take your time.
As you know, with black fellas, family's everything.
Yeah, it's everything.
Family's
You
everything.
can't live without.
We don't worry about money, we don't worry about, but family, we worry about family. And we all unite. I just, them two girls, it's not a night that goes past when I lay my head down. They just flow back into me, come to me mind, and I think to myself, and it hurts me to think that I'm going to die and I'm never ever going to see him again. And when I used to talk to my sister, and she used to say, Dennis, don't worry. If they wanted to get in contact, they'd get in contact. I'd say, sure, but they don't know. They might know they got brothers and sisters. How would they know? They were only, I think, Kay was 3, and the other girl, Gail, was 4.
Might have been too
I said,
young.
yeah, I said, now how would they know if they went to someone and, like, they're not going to tell them that they got brothers, they got sisters, and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I just one day I might see them.
Yeah.
But I always think of them. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
I never forget them. I always think.
Well, it was really good listening to everything that you have to say, and I think it is really important that you do continue to tell as long as you're able to, and to share, because I think a lot of people want to hear what you have to say, and I feel like it is a very, very important part of Australian history and just history in general.
It is very important.
I'm Tom Moffatt.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Camperdown on the 4th of January 1958.
Can you describe the place you spent your childhood?
Yes, I was in a foster home. I got fostered and I was in a foster home, and that family later on adopted me, and that was in North Ryde.
That's cool. Can you describe one significant memory from your childhood?
Yeah, being adopted and taken away from my family is always something that I've always remembered and never forgotten.
Is there a song that takes you back to your childhood? What is it and what does it remind you of?
A song? Oh yeah, every song, many songs. There isn't, I can't say there's one.
Can you describe one?
One. Oh, you're making it hard. One song. Oh, actually, yeah, there is one song from Paul McCartney. After he left the Beatles, he formed a band called Wings, and it was called Band on the Run. I always remember that song from my childhood because I used to run away a lot from the foster home because I didn't like it there, and so that song always takes me back to my young childhood days.
Sorry that you were taken away.
That's all right. It happens. There were plenty of us.
Can you tell me about someone in your life who's demonstrated strength to you?
My brother Dennis, because he went through the same thing. So to see him go through what he went through and come out the other side, that gives me the strength to know that I can go through it, because he's a bit young, he's a bit older than me, so yep, he's the one that I draw my strength from.
What dreams did you have for your future when you were younger?
I wanted to own a restaurant. I wanted to be a chef and I wanted to own a restaurant. Didn't happen, of course, but that was my dream.
What is a quality you love about yourself?
These days, my honesty.
What is the hardest thing you've had to overcome?
There's been so many things, but obviously learning that I'd been taken from my family and not knowing my heritage obviously was hard, because I didn't find out until I was much older. Having to live on the streets, homeless, for most of my teenage years, because I refused to live in the foster home where I was. Being in and out of prison, they were all pretty hard things to have to deal with.
For what in your life do you feel is most grateful? Like, what are you most grateful for?
My family, my wife, children and grandchildren.
If you have one piece of advice for your younger self, what would it be? What would that be?
A piece of advice for my younger self, did you say?
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd have any advice, but if I could go back and talk to myself back then, I'd simply say, don't worry, as hard as it's going to get, it'll eventually get better, and one day you'll see the light and it'll be all good.
So you told us how you've been into a foster home and you didn't really like it there. How did you turn that experience into a personal strength?
Well, I don't know that I did, because as I said, when I was 13, I actually attempted to kill my father, because I just had so much abuse from him, and then that didn't work. So then I attempted to kill myself, and I tried to hang myself. That didn't work. So then I ran away from home, and as I said, I went and lived on the streets of King's Cross. So I guess the strength that I learnt was how to protect myself, because at that young age, it's, you know, there are a lot of people out there that want to do you harm. So I think that the positive, if there is a positive to come out of this, is that I learned to stand up for myself and to look after myself.
What was the age when you found your brother?
Dennis, I was 32 or 33 when I found Dennis.
What did you feel like were you happy?
Oh yeah, no, very happy, because we come from a very large family. There's 28 brothers and sisters all together, so he's one of 12 brothers, and then I've got 16 sisters. So now to meet him for the first, I was very nervous the first time to meet him, because you never know, because as you can see by the look of me tattoos, earrings, sometimes people judge by appearances, and I didn't know anything about him, so I was nervous at first, but then when he opened the door and saw me, we just laughed at one another and we became instantly close. It was as if we'd grown up together.
You look really cool now. Like, you look really
That's
cool.
good.
Were you ever afraid? Like, when you said you were living on the streets, were you like afraid?
Oh, every day, of course. When you're that young, you are afraid. But that when you talked about before about the strength, that's the strength. You don't want to let people see the fear in you, because there are people out there, once they see that fear, then they know they've got you. So you could never ever show fear. And as I used to always say, that even if you know you're going to take a beating, stand up to them people, because there's no shame in getting beaten. There's no shame in losing, because sometimes it's not all about winning. So that's yeah.
But where do you live now?
I live up on the Central Coast at the entrance. I've been up there now for 25 something odd years.
Do you live with your brother?
No, he lives at Chester Hill. I live with my wife.
Thank you. So that is all today. We got to say thank you for coming here.
Thanks for having
You're
me.
really cool.
Thank you. You're pretty cool too.
Thank you. So yeah, that's all.
It's a good experience. Thank you.
This podcast and the book were both made possible by the support of Inner West Council and the goodwill of Tim Carroll. Tim is the outgoing director of Out Loud, the youth arts organisation formerly known as BIDS. Shout out to our amazing interviewers, Finny, Tali, Mareki, Tiora, Lizzie and Ashley. Thanks to Pamela Dennis and Stephen Stobbs, who run the Koori Club. And special thanks to Jessica Paraha for running the amazing interviewing workshop with the Koori Club and producing this podcast.